For all your email management needs, look no further than Aweber, the preferred choice for geekoutdoors.com. Sign up today and you could get a 30-day free trial by checking out the affiliate link in the description area below.
Hey, welcome to another episode of geekoutdoors.com. If you haven't seen the news, something really unexpected was announced recently, and that is Atari, or more specifically the Atari Box, is actually going to be released. Basically, Atari might be releasing a new console, and it's going to have the wood grain effects. Now, I thought this was a joke originally, but it is confirmed that, this is going to be a real thing. We don't know what form that's going to be, but Atari has a really, really special place in a lot of people's heart. It's really the very first successful home console, gaming console. It's actually the very first gaming console that I had. I actually had the Atari 2600 and I also had the Atari 5800, although I didn't have the wood grain version of the original Atari. But man, the Atari had so many great memories, and although the ports were pretty bad. I mean, if you compare it to to other consoles that came out after that, specifically the Nintendo or Sega Master System, I mean, they were pretty amazing for the time, especially if you enjoyed games like Pong. And even though Pac-Man wasn't a great port, you got to play it at home, and Atari had tons of games. And it wasn't until, the game industry crashed, and I think it was going to crash anyway, even without E.T., but E.T. was pretty much the nail in the coffin for Atari. And, they never quite made it back after that. They went bankrupt many times, and honestly, the last time I had an Atari game console was the Atari Jaguar, which I actually bought, and man, that was absolutely horrible. If any of you ever remember playing the Jaguar, or if you were one of the unfortunate ones to actually have it, it looked like a toilet, and the controller was absolutely horrible. It was a horrible controller. And, the controller kind of reminded me of what the Atari 5800 and the ColecoVision tried to do, where it just had a lot of buttons, with numbers and stuff, but it was just an absolutely horrible controller. Now, with this announcement, I don't really know what to say. There's really not much on the trailer that gives you any indication of what it really is. Just as you probably just saw, it shows like the wood grain, and that's about it. So it's called the Atari Box, or that's actually what the website is called, Ataribox.com. So we're not sure at all in what form this is going to be. Is it going to be a retro gaming system, which may be likely? I don't know. I mean, I don't know why you would buy it, but it could be a retro gaming system with just minimal, maybe not minimal, but okay hardware specs. Just some off-the-shelf PC hardware specs. And who knows? I mean, maybe not a retro gaming console. Maybe, I don't know, it'll have in-house Atari-made games. Because I just don't think that the Atari brand, like I said, they went bankrupt many times, and they haven't had a hit since the original Atari 2600. And so with that being said, number one, they don't have a lot of money, that's for sure. And then number two, they don't have the brand marketing to actually attract other developers or other companies to partner up with them. So I'm not even really sure. And it's not April, so it's definitely not an April Fool's joke. And so if I were to think of like some possibilities in terms of the positives out of it, maybe they'll use, by the time it's released, maybe they'll use specs that are good enough to actually play games at a decent level. But maybe what they might have is they really will have some good in-house Atari games. That might be the case, okay? Even though it might not seem likely, I don't know of any other way they could differentiate themselves from other consoles, because, like I said, they don't have the money, they don't have the brand marketing, so they're not going to be able to even have the same games that other consoles have, okay? But if they had some old Atari IPs, old games that they used to have, that they still own rights to, maybe they could make upgraded versions to it. And I think the defining factor, if it actually becomes a reality, is, besides the nostalgia aspect of it, the price needs to be right, okay? And, Atari did try to price their Jaguar as low as possible, but that's first and foremost. But more importantly than the price after that is the games, okay? What type of games are they actually going to be offering? Is it going to be offering anything that's different that warrants you to purchase it versus any of the other consoles? Now, like I said, if it is games that are related to Atari, Atari-based games, then maybe that's possible, okay? And they did a great enough job because, Atari, they have made some good games, I guess, ever since the Jaguar. They became a third-party developer, and I can't really remember some of the games offhand, but I do remember that they did have some good games. So they are capable of getting a good development team to produce some games. So that's the highest thing. If they had some games that are compelling on hardware that could actually make it look good, then that's great. Because just look at the Nintendo Switch. The hardware is basically a mobile processor. It's the Tegra X, and so it's not entirely dependent on you having the best hardware. It's always about the game. So if Atari could produce some that aren't only nostalgic but are actually good, then I really think they have a shot right there. And right here I'm playing Return of the Jedi. This is produced and made by Atari back then. And Atari had some really good games back then. And obviously the gaming landscape has really changed. There's way more companies out there producing games than just a handful of game developers. But if they could come back to something like this, where it's simple, fun, easy to play, and at the same time it has that nostalgic Atari feel, then I think it might be, it might have its own success. Maybe not anywhere near the Sony PS4 or the Xbox One or the Nintendo Switch, but they could carve their own niche out of it, and mainly due to the whatever brand name that they still have, mostly nostalgia, and their older games, hopefully that they still have rights to. So those are my thoughts on the Atari box. If you had any thoughts on it, leave it in the comments area below. At this point, until I see something and also some games, I don't know, it could just be vaporware, who knows. And if you did get value out of these videos, leave a like and subscribe. And if you wanted to support my channel further, you could do that at patreon.com/Geek Outdoors. Thanks for checking out this episode.
And as always, if you like these videos, be sure to click on the subscribe button. And for full written content, audio content, and additional geek stuff, head over to geekoutdoors.com, and I'll see you outdoors on the very next episode.